5 on the dot.
Five? Okay. City Council regular meeting number 2025-32. I'll call this meeting to order on Tuesday, November 25th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. And as we get started, I just want to make a couple quick comments. One is that we have public comment twice during the evening tonight. The first public comment will be on topics that are not on the agenda tonight. So if you have anything you'd like to say, you have up to 3 minutes. And that will be held after the city manager's report or at 6 p.m., whichever comes first. And then we have a second public comment period after each item on the agenda, where you will be able to discuss that particular topic. Also, we have a couple of items up there on the bench up behind there, rainbow items. You will see them in various colors. And if you want to stop by and pick up some of those, you're welcome to do that. So with that, Julie, roll call, please.
Stephen Muntean.
Here.
Gail Gary.
Here.
John Agosta.
Here.
Dave Barnes.
Here.
Michael Bacino.
Here.
Amy Dixon.
Here.
And Brian Swintek.
Here.
Okay. And let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. There's a flag to my right and one to the back as well. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We will start tonight with City Council reports. And I did want to, before we go around, I did want to make one statement here to get started. So I'll just read it to you. I want to reiterate that the City of Steamboat RTA board appointments will occur during the December 19th retreat. And I also want to emphasize that the city has not and does not intend to take action regarding the RTA prior to standing up the RTA board. Okay. Who would like to start with reports? Gail?
Okay. All right. I'll go first. A couple of different items. I mean, the first, let's start out with a little good news, right? The city has received 2 different grants. One, the city applied for the funding as an eligible applicant for RCEDP for a grant from DOLA. And this is basically a supplemental funding of about $70,000 to an existing grant that they had already received of $140,000. And this is basically to support the Yampa Valley entrepreneurial ecosystem. So that includes the Business Accelerator, the Business Incubator, the Mentorship Network, the Capital Investor Network, and the Community Building Initiative. So again, that's great news, and we so appreciate the continued support of DOLA. We also, and I think everybody saw this today, received the $1.5 million award to the Steamboat Springs Transit. And again, this was, I think, something that was done or supported by our congressional delegation as part of the Department of Transportation low or no emission program for the fiscal year 2025-2026. And so again, the city was awarded SST, $1.5 million for funding to buy a new hybrid bus to increase capacity and deliver a safer, more efficient, and reliable transit service. So again, that's great news and a good way to get close to ending the year. In case you were wondering, if you've been driving around and in case you saw the drilling rig at the corner of 6th and Oak, it was in the parking lot. This is behind the Yampa Valley Sustainability Council, now the Western Resilience Center parking lot. They now own that building at 6th and Oak, and they were drilling a borehole to test the thermal capacity for geothermal. So again, the good news on that is they used high altitude geothermal, which is a drilling company out of Moffat County. So this was one of the Just Transition families that has kind of is in the process of transitioning from oil and gas to geothermal. So they were able to get, I think, about 300 feet, and this will be good and kind of another point of information for all of us as we look at, or for those who are looking at this, right, from the experience of geothermal and the thermal capacity. It'll be another point for at the activities that are happening at the GTC as a comparison, right? So now we've got that work that was done with the borehole up on the mountain. We have this new kind of borehole, and then you have that to compare to the Yampa Valley Community Foundation geothermal. So again, kind of more data and more information in terms of geothermal as we move forward on that front. I also attended the monthly RCEDP meeting. Scott Ford presented his economic index for 2025. So I've asked for a copy to share with council so that we can all take a look at that. It had some interesting numbers. He reported out that Routt County unemployment rate was 2.3%, that 8 to 10% of our workforce are remote workers. The median wage of a remote worker is $75,000 compared to $52,000 for those employed in Routt County. And then he also kind of went into the breakdown of our age groups within the city. And one of the questions that was asked for him to follow up on was to say, okay, let's take a look at the various different age categories, right? So the 65 plus, 45 to 65, 25 to 44, and break that down in terms of home ownership, as well as looking at income by age group. So some more information to come on that, but we'll make sure that gets distributed to all of us. And then Julie, drum roll. If you want to, there you go. Councillor Muntean and I participated in the 31st Annual Festival of Tree event at the Tread of Pioneer Museums. So we wanted to just share with you that we chose the tree titled Stand United, Not Divided. So it will be on display here in Centennial Hall, I think beginning next week. And then last year's tree will be displayed at City Hall. So it's a great tradition and, just a great way to start off the holidays and support the Tread of Pioneer Museum. A couple more things staying with the holiday theme. Just a reminder of the holiday festivities this Friday with Main Streets lighting up, the night celebration. And again, celebrating the fact that Santa's house will be here at the Civic Plaza. And so that's going to be from 6 to 6:30 p.m. So mark your calendar if you're in town and can come down for that. And then the final issue is that I think right before we kind of got here today, Commissioner Macy sent over a request to council to basically put in a letter of support regarding the closure of the Hayden Station power plant and the potential impacts to our community. So I just wanted to flag that for everybody. Maybe everybody can take a look at it. The request is if we would send a letter so we can, talk about that next week once everybody's had a chance to review the letter. So that's my report.
Good. Thank you. Who else? No one?
I have a light week now.
Okay.
I just have one quick update, if I may. Until we have our council retreat, which I don't know if it was finalized for the 19th yet. Are we good for that date?
Confirmed, yeah.
Confirmed. Okay. At that time, I believe we'll probably go over council appointments to different organizations and nonprofits. I am the not interim. I am the alternate for First Impressions. So I will be attending the meetings until we have our retreat on the 19th. So I'll report back after that meeting. So, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. No one else?
I'll just add one thing. Last week I went and visited Cottonwood. Elliot of YVHA gave me a tour of the Cottonwood Estates. Looked in what they have. Actually, my walk away there was I could live there. It was actually pretty darn nice. I mean, there's, the decks that they have in a number of them. I was very pleased with it. And
Good.
I'm glad I did that.
Good. Okay, I have just a couple things I want to mention, maybe more for the community, including everybody up here as well, is that Lift Up is starting an expansion. They're going to double their square footage from about 10,000 square feet to 19,000 square feet, which is really exciting. And they're starting a capital campaign to raise the money for that, which will be $5 million. And I think the community should know that there is a matching donor who will put up 2.5 million if the community raises the other 2.5 million. So that's kind of exciting stuff. All the good work that the folks at Lift Up do. Another thing is, as most of you know, Yampa Valley Housing Authority is going to be going through some interviews for our board members. And if you're interested, the application is now live on the county website under Yampa Valley Housing Authority Board application. You can find it. You have until December 1st to apply. And they're looking for people with financial skills, developer skills, property management, communications, and lived experience. So those are some of the things that they're looking for. So if you have any interest in that, please send in an application. And the final thing I want to mention is from the Yampa Valley Community Foundation that they are starting up a mental and behavioral health survey in the Yampa Valley. It will run through February, and they're really trying to understand how to improve and expand mental and behavioral health resources throughout the region. So if you are interested, you can just go to the Yampa Valley Community Foundation website and you will see an icon on there that will take you to the survey. And they're looking for as many people as possible to complete the survey. So if you're interested, awesome. Yeah. Okay, good. Let's move on and we'll go to agenda review. And we'll start with next week's agenda, which is on December 2nd. And you will see there under, we have a Steamboat Springs Redevelopment Authority meeting. That's to go over supplemental and at that time. And you can look at the rest of the different sessions on there. If anybody has a question on some of those. There is an executive session planned as well for next week, so that will be in there. But it's pretty self-explanatory, the rest of that. Are there any questions on December 2nd? Okay. December 9th. December 9th, we're going to start with a joint meeting with the Routt County Commissioners, and there's going to be 2 subjects on the agenda. One of those is going to be a child care update, and Meg Franges will be here, and with Kelly, we'll be discussing that. And the other piece is going to be the Yampa Valley Housing Authority IGA discussion to go over that. And it's the start of what will be a monitoring or of all the IGAs as we move forward here to see if there's anything we need to do to revise, upgrade, or whatnot on the IGA agreement between the county and the city regarding the Yampa Valley Housing Authority. And then you can see the regular, agenda there for the work session, or excuse me, that's it. That's all. December 9th. Let's look at December 9th. 16th, I mean, and on December 16th, you'll see that there are a number of items on there. Again, it's not an overly long agenda, but as you can see, there's 2 community reports that night, water capacity study, which was moved up to that date, and the strategic plan update process, which will be good to do on the 16th. So we have some of that information before our retreat as well. Any questions on the 19th? Okay, then I'm going to keep moving to January 6, 2026. You can see on there, again, we have the Fish Creek Water Filtration Plant, IGA, that we're going to talk about on that date, and a number of different other consent calendar items on there. Again, you can look through that, but is there any specific questions or comments?
I think the only thing I'll mention is that we talked about the potential that we will add the YVHA resolution with the appointments. Given that I think the interviews are on the 17th or the 18th. So we'd have to add the resolution and adopting those appointments. And then I believe, Kim, we talked about also adding the 2026 community support allocation resolution to that agenda as well.
Okay, good. Okay, with that, we'll turn it over for the city manager report. Kelly?
Thank you, President Muntean. Good evening, counselors. You see, Tom is not here tonight. He's out, and so you're stuck with me for the evening. So I will do my best to contribute to your goal to have one of the shortest meetings of the year. You all have the city manager's report in your packet, so I'm just going to hit on a few highlights to make sure that we're recognizing the great and hard work of our staff. I'll start with Public Works and the airport. The airport fuel contract with AvFuel has been finalized, and they will now be the sole provider of aviation fuels for the Steamboat Springs Airport. This will provide improved services, including staff training and fuel discounts to pilots at no cost to the airport. Moving on to engineering, staff from the engineering division and from the planning department had the opportunity to visit their counterparts in Fort Collins to learn about their development review process and procedures. Our Fort Collins hosts were very accommodating. They gave staff a lot of time, provided facility tours, and allowed our staff to attend their development review meetings. The purpose of the trip was to identify practices in Fort Collins that, if implemented locally, could improve our processes. Moving on to streets. The streets division has completed all paving operations or asphalting for the season, and they're getting ready for the winter season. So hopefully that comes soon. Moving on to transit. Transit summer season ridership was up 4% this year over the same period last summer. And year to date, ridership is up 1%. And for water and sewer, staff is currently evaluating the implementation of a self-service portal where customers will have direct access to their real-time water usage information. This will allow customers to detect leaking plumbing sooner and to also monitor their own water conservation efforts. So it's a great water savings tool. Moving on to water resources, the city has been participating with other local governments in the Headwaters region in an initiative led by Northwest COG Water Quality Water Quantity Committee to propose solutions to the Water Quality Control Commission to address compliance challenges for wastewater treatment facilities that are discharging to streams and rivers that do not meet water quality temperature standards. So it's great to be able to collaborate with those other communities on solutions. Moving on to wastewater, I always find this to be an interesting figure because it can indicate other things happening in our community. But this last month in October, the wastewater treatment plant treated 55 million gallons of wastewater, and that's down about 8% from October of 2024. Let's see, moving on to planning, the planning department. Staff have implemented council's direction regarding notices of violation in the SDR overlay zone A, the green zone, and expiration notices, and they've issued expiration notices in all zones. Moving on, historic preservation. The city's certified local government annual report was approved by the state on November 14th. In addition to reporting on adoption of the historic preservation plan and historic design guidelines, the city is proud to report our staff and Historic Preservation Commission completed inventory of 150 properties. In the long-range planning front, City Council, as you know, adopted the Steamboat Springs Community Plan last month. The recently adopted Routt County Unified Development Code establishes a new process whereby municipal comprehensive plans are acknowledged as a sub-area plan of the Routt County Master Plan. At their November 18th regular meeting, the Routt County Board of Commissioners considered two actions related to the community plan. One is ratifying the decision of the Routt County Planning Commission to acknowledge the community plan, and two, adopting revisions to the urban growth boundaries outlined in the community plan as previously adopted by City Council. The county commissioners tabled these actions and will consider both of them at their December 16th meeting. Moving on to Parks and Recreation. The Tennis Center is now reopened for business. after a temporary closure to replace the exterior membrane, new insulation, lighting upgrades, court resurfacing, and refreshing the Welcome Center. So hopefully you all have the opportunity to swing by there and see the improvements. Also note that city staff will be meeting with the Steamboat Springs Youth Hockey Association representatives in December to prepare a funding, design, and construction agreement for the second sheet of ice. On the project front, staff continues to coordinate upcoming improvement projects to Emerald Park, as you are well aware. Next year, the only project planned is the playground replacement. The 2027 construction season will include the Public Works Sanitary Interceptor, Xcel Energy's high-pressure gas line, and the irrigation replacement project. These three projects are scheduled for the same year to limit interruptions, community impacts, and to avoid redundant work and minimize restoration work associated with the three projects. Moving on to Halcyon Hill. This isn't like the best news, but counselors, you would have received communication from me and the Parks and Rec director this afternoon that we've had to delay the opening of Halcyon Hill to December 6th. So our snow dances are not working yet, but keep it up. Also, our staff at Parks and Rec are working around the clock trying to make the most of the cold temperatures that we have. It's just the conditions have been less than optimal, and we have to have a solid base before we can turn our users loose on the hill. So let's hope for snow. Haymaker Golf Course closed for the season, completing its first ever 6-month stretch of a continuous operation. The course set a new all-time rounds record this year of over 36,000 tee times. So a lot of use out at Haymaker. I also want to note that the Phase 1 irrigation system improvement project was completed this season, featuring the transition from outdated irrigation software to the Rainbird Cirrus Pro platform, which basically is a huge improvement and will allow Haymaker to also realize water savings. Moving on to adult sports, on October 22nd, the second annual Emerald Mountain Scramble welcomed 63 participants for a unique race from the Halcyon Hill Lodge to the Emerald Mountain Cell Towers. And the runners got to choose their routes. Sounds like the overall winning time was 23 minutes and 40 seconds, and I don't even know how that is humanly possible. Someone that runs up Emerald Mountain quite frequently, but we'll see if anybody can beat that record during the third annual Emerald Scramble. And then for youth programs, on December 10th and 17th, our recreation coordinator, Rachel Jackson, will host her third Holiday Craft Extravaganza, which is a popular event for elementary and middle school students to come together for festive creativity. Meanwhile, youth staff are already gearing up for summer 2026 with a focus on expanding enrollment through additional revenue generating themed camp opportunities, and excitement for the upcoming season is unmistakable. And then I will close with just mentioning that the Yampa River Botanic Park closed for the season on November 14th, so they were able to extend their season by another 2 weeks. And the gardens welcomed nearly 30,000 visitors this season. So a main attraction in the city of Steamboat Springs. So that is it for the city manager report. Counselors, are either myself or my team's happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. Anyone have questions?
I've heard concerns about the work at Emerald Park and that there's not enough field space for soccer or something like that. Have we reached out to them, and what options are there? Are we working with the school district to be able to use their fields?
Good evening, City Council. Angela Cosby, your Parks and Recreation Director. Easiest answer is yes. I'll give you a more elaborate answer though. So for the 2026 fiscal year, City Council budgeted $1.8 million for the irrigation replacement at Emerald Park. I'll let Public Works Director John Snyder answer any budget-related questions about the sewer interceptor project that we're timing with. There is a desire for the community to provide, and reason why I'm providing this detail is because there have been a handful of partners, community groups reaching out to City Council with inquiries. There is a desire from the community to provide a full turf replacement at Emerald Park, much like we did at Ski Town Park last year. Our project which will take place in 2027, is turf repair, not replacement. So that is one of the requests, and I wanted to highlight the difference there. Repair is where we will be digging trenches either for the irrigation replacement, sewer interceptor, or gas line. We'll be resodding those areas, but not the entire park. So there's a desire to resod the entire park. All of the projects were presented to the Parks and Recreation Commission during their September 9th meeting, which our user groups were invited to. We have also started modeling an Emerald Park user group meeting after the success of the Howelson Hill user groups. Their first meeting took place on November 12th, which included representatives from soccer, Triple Crown, youth baseball, and the Botanic Park. Our next meeting is scheduled for December 4th. We also have 2 Parks and Recreation Commissioner liaisons attending those meetings. The topics include coordination of the playground replacement, which we do hope takes place in 2026. There will be barely any community impacts for that project. Coordination of the playground replacement, sewer interceptor project, the XL gas line, the irrigation replacement, consideration of expanding the Botanic Park's northern fence line towards the soccer fields, the parking challenges and opportunities of the sites, and coordinating events and schedules. These meetings are the best source of information, and they offer an opportunity for all of our different user groups or community partners to have a seat at the table and help influence the how we achieve all of these projects. So we do encourage attendance at that meeting. Did I cover everything you were looking for?
Yeah, I guess the use of fields and having enough fields for activities in town. Are we working with the school district to use their field? I've heard concern that with it closed, there won't be enough fields.
Yeah, many of the concerns you heard were probably a request to delay from 2026 to 2027 to give the soccer community an opportunity to improve or replace, do all of their capital projects at the heritage fields. So we are largely because of that need, as well as the timing of all of these projects, we need to be dialed in. We only want to impact the community for one summer season and not have any hiccups along the way that rolls us into another year. So we are delaying to 2027. We are a bit concerned about cost increases. That does help bring down the soccer community's goal is that they will then in 2027 have the heritage fields online. There still will be an impact, to be honest with you. We have met with them about relocating to all of our other park sites that include sport fields, and we will be able to accommodate a good amount, but not all. And we are in the process of reaching out to the school district to see what opportunities we have there. But it will be impactful if we're able to accommodate, say, 80% of the needs. I'll be pretty happy.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Others?
Actually, do you mind if I follow up on that, Angela or Kelly? I mean, just a quick question in terms of, I've just started to hear a little bit about the Botanic Park expansion. You just mentioned that. When is it, what's the status, and when would be an appropriate time to kind of brief council on that?
We are still investigating that option through these user groups. The Botanic Park started exploring it about year and a half ago with their landscape architect that's on their board. He's very talented. And they have been working with the user groups of Emerald Park to see what impacts there would be. We're fine tuning that. Depending what impacts there may be, we'll be routing it through Parks and Recreation and potentially, and then informing City Council. I think depending on what the impacts and decisions that are being recommended are, will gauge how significant we dive in with City Council.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. I've got a number of questions to me about Pine Grove Road, and the questions are really about, is that complete in terms of it feels a little roller coasty? know if you can comment on that?
Sure. John Snyder, Public Works Director. It is complete. We're not happy with the smoothness. They went out there and ground down some of the higher humps, and so it does meet spec. So we're not in a position where we're going to ask them to rip it out. But it was a situation where we were asking them to keep all the driveways open at all times, which meant they couldn't make long pulls. So it was a tough installation, but they certainly could have done better.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
May I?
Yes.
So Counselor Swintek, you asked my question, so thank you. I just want to, on Pine Grove Road, I just want to give a thanks to the staff. That was definitely disruptive for sure, but boy, are the improvements fantastic. The bike lanes, the sidewalks, I mean, it's awesome. So we have a little pain for a few months with community members and getting around that area, but really thank you, staff. I think it turned out great.
Okay. And I think also, John, the downhill traffic light and all of that construction turned out really great. At least I thought it did. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We will move on. Before we do, I wanted to mention, I think I forgot to mention this, but on December 9th, when we are having the county and city meeting, afterward, the work session topics are two really important topics, and they include inclusionary zoning, linkage feasibility study update, and also the STR tax fund rolling solicitation process. So some big topics on that work session on December 9th. Okay, next up is public comment. So is there anyone in the audience who would like to come down and have 3 minutes and make a public comment on any subject that isn't on the agenda tonight? And at the same time, if there's anyone online, please raise your hand and we will also call on you. No one in the audience? Okay.
Not seeing anybody online.
No one online. So we will close public comment. And we will move on to our next topic. Mr. Harrington, come on down. And we will turn it over to Jay to talk about the Routt County Communications funding model.
Great. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to working with Councilmember Barnes and Augusta. Haven't worked with you yet. The rest of you, it's been a great time over the last couple of years working with the city council. Somewhat unique here that the city and county work really well together at the staff level on up to the elected. Just to assure you, that's not the case in a lot of counties and municipalities. So that's really a nice relationship and we value that. A little background on Routt County Communication Center. In 1990, the Routt County took over the operations. Each entity, the county and city, had their own kind of small dispatch center. And it wasn't really functional. And so they merged it together. The city put in a little bit of funding and the county took over the operations. In 2000, the county and the city entered into an IGA on some of the operational functions of that. And that also expanded to our other partners. We cover the fire districts and a bunch of the state agencies and coroner's office, emergency management, and the such. So the county since 1990 has used property taxes. It's not a dedicated property tax. We basically carved apart whatever was necessary from the county's general mill levy to support the dispatch center. The challenges of operating that center have become more expensive over time. The equipment, the whole functionality of the dispatch center has, with technologies, you think technology makes it cheaper. It actually has gotten way more expensive over time to operate the dispatch center. In 2024, the county commissioners instructed the county staff to start looking at some sort of cost sharing model to look at how we could divvy up the cost of operating the dispatch center to the various users based on the amount of calls or CAD entries that each entity has. I started talking with Gary on that and then Tom back in 2024. And then at one of our 2024 joint meetings, we let you know that it was going to start to be a topic of discussion. The county staff early on was directed by the commissioners to look at a one-year full cost recovery model. So that's what we presented to the city council in, I think that was in May at our joint meeting here, and went over that with you. And then in July, we sent that out to all our different partners. Obviously, there was a fair amount of pushback. It was some pretty big numbers. And the commissioners took a step back and said, listen, let's relook at this and see how we're operating this and what's a little different cost share. So the commissioners asked us to work up a cost sharing model where the county would keep 50 or 51% of the overall costs of the dispatch center as part of our property tax, and then try to split off the balance of that to our users. Right now, the city of Steamboat Springs, between the fire and police department, is a little over 60% of the call volume at the dispatch center. On November 19th, we were able to petition the Public Utilities Commission to increase our line fee, and we talked about that with you back in May. And originally, we were going to ask for a $4.22 line fee, and that's for each line that someone has. It's a monthly fee. Cell phones, it's important that if you have an out-of-town cell phone that you make sure you use your local address. So those fees go to support our emergency needs, not where someone comes from. I'd like to remind our new arrivals that. But after meeting with the PUC staff, we changed that request to $4, and that mirrors what Pitkin County has, which is one of the higher ones in the state. And we had a unanimous approval on the 19th for that fee increase. As many dispatch centers in the country, we have various challenges on staff retention, how many folks get retained after they go through the training program, and just the overall staffing levels. I think nationally, it's a little over 50% staffing at dispatch centers. Our national model on that is not really working. And I think about 40% of those who go through the training program nationally don't pass and can't become dispatchers. It's really tough work. It's one of the few jobs where you get the emergency in your lap and you don't know how it's ended. So we have dispatchers who say a baby needs CPR and they're talking someone through the CPR, but they don't know if the baby lives or not. That's the type of toll that our dispatchers have. I know Councilmember Pacino's son pulls some part-time shifts with us and can kind of tell those stress points. Like when you're out in the field, you often see the end results of your actions. In dispatch, you don't. You deal with that adrenaline rush and all those issues, but you don't really get to see what happens afterwards. We have, in the last 18 months, made quite a few operational changes at the dispatch center. Compensation, we tried to pay closer to what we pay our jailers. We also have created differential pay, changed up scheduling. I mentioned back in May that we're in the process of opening up a remote dispatch or satellite dispatch center in Hayden with 2 stations. We've moved the equipment there, but as always, there's some tech issues getting the fiber line fully operational, which we hope to have in the near future. That's to actually be able to have folks who can provide services to the public when you can't get to Steamboat. Last year, Election Day, we actually had folks working 18-hour shifts there because you couldn't get to the Steamboat when all the roads iced over and we had those giant traffic jams and almost had a failure to be able to provide the services. So also, only one of our dispatchers lives in Steamboat and one lives in Oak Creek. Everyone else is from Hayden and Craig. So we kind of need to bring the work to where the people are too. We've lost quite a few dispatchers who, when you're working a 12-hour shift and you have an hour commute on both ends of it, it's not really, and then you're doing 4 days straight of that, it's not really productive and also puts a big tear on the family life. So we've made some changes there. One of the things that also for county government, most of our services are statutorily required. Even if we were home rule, which we're not, there's only 2 home rule counties other than combined city counties, which are home rule, we have to provide a whole series of services. Like the DA's office. The county is the one who has to pay the cost share for the DA, district attorney's office. We have to provide a jail, human services, treasurer, assessor. All our core functions are pretty much statutorily required. Road and bridge, for example. Dispatch is not one of them. It's not one that we're actually required by statute. So moving along, within the state of Colorado, about 95% of the dispatch centers have some sort of cost share based on usage. It's not necessarily 100% cost recovery, but most it's divvied up by how much you use it. I've overseen one dispatch center and been involved in 2 others, and they were all had some level of cost share on them. Our dispatch center in communications is way more than just dispatch. We operate 5 tower sites in the county, probably need a 6th in the future. So all your emergency communications come through our tower sites. The county took over the Emerald site, and the city helped cover those costs of taking that over a while back. We have a 3-quarter IT person who just supports the dispatch center because of the technological needs and challenges. And then GIS, we have a very robust GIS system, which really gives the folks in the field quite a bit of information when they receive a call. One of our challenges and one of the reasons we're looking at this cost sharing model is that all these things happening at the federal level hit us first as a county. 28% of our budget comes from state and federal funding. And so we're already seeing the impacts of the most recent federal spending bill. I don't like to actually call it the big beautiful one, but just the big bill. We're already seeing those costs. Things like administrative costs for SNAP, that ratio has changed. We've had to add another position to look at eligibility issues for SNAP and Medicare, or Medicaid, excuse me. Those are now items that we have to look at. The shutdown, we authorized, it'll end up a little less than this, but we authorized $60,000 worth of spending so that residents in Routt County, including Steamboat, could eat when they weren't getting their SNAP payments, and make sure that we had some level of food security out there. We also continue to see challenges on our PILT funding. That's payment in lieu of taxes, which is to offset the impacts of having federal lands which don't pay taxes. And so each year we have to go fight for that. That's $2.3 million for the county, and most of that goes to road and bridge and emergency services, but not sure where that's going to be. With the state's budget shortfall in 2026, that $1.2 billion that they balanced, over half of it was gimmicks. And to be honest, one-time gimmicks, tax credits and things which are not going to be able to happen the next time around. The projection is for next year, another $1 billion shortfall. So those items that we're required to do for the state, we know they can't support at the level. If you look at human services, for example, 80% of the human services budget is covered by the state. Some of that's federal money flowing through the state. We know that's not going to be able to change. So when we look out in 2027 and 2028, we see a much different fiscal landscape. The county commissioners have been trying to anticipate that, which is why we've added a lodger's tax. We just got approval 2 weeks ago to add $2 surcharge for day park passes, which only is going to be about $27,000, but every dollar counts. We're lobbying to try to get a bigger cost of that. If you think of state parks in Routt County, close to 1.2 million visitor days a year on state parks. It's kind of hard to think that there's probably or most likely more visitors to our state parks than our ski area. And we're maintaining, 4 of those are all on our road system. And we spend over $1 million a year maintaining roads just to get to the state parks. So we know we're looking at some real issues. Short term, we're not broke and we're doing fine, but we have to look at how we're going to handle that. That's also why we looked at the PUC surcharge for the lines. The county's airport is a full enterprise fund that right now it makes between $1.2 million and $2 million a year in profit. which is all going back in the airport. That's a complete standalone enterprise. You'll see us borrowing $75, $80 million in the next 3 months and starting a huge expansion out there. But none of that's coming from our general fund. That's all going to be part of our part of the enterprise. And then we share the regional building department with you. Reports to us, but it's all of ours, and you have a seat on the oversight committee, and that usually keeps a $5.5 to $6 million fund balance so that we can continue those operations if we do see a major slowdown. When we looked at putting together our cost sharing for this project, and we have a meeting in, I think, 2 weeks, Kim, with finance, our folks, legal, to work through the details of an IGA that we recently submitted to this city staff to take a look at. So some of this will get flushed out in a little more detail, but all the external funds we take in place first. Like some cases, we get tower rental fees for our towers if a cell phone company is co-located on it and the such. So we take all our revenues, including the 911 surcharge, put that together. Then we looked at what our 50%, 51% cost would be, and then we divvy up the difference. So when we saw the 911 fee increase and got that approved, that wasn't built into the last financial model that we sent to the city. So that actually lowers your cost for next year under this cost sharing agreement to $56,000, $453, which this also includes the records system, which is Spielman, which we all operate and use for all our law enforcement. Fire uses it just a little, but it's more law enforcement related. That Spielman system right now, you're paying about $80,000 a year in terms of maintenance on. And we built that into this model. So actually next year you save $30,000 because it includes the Spielman side of things. Then we show about $550,000 for 2027 and a little over $900,000 for 2028. Those numbers most likely are probably on the high side because we budget for a full staff, and even with us dealing with staffing issues, we're never going to have a full staff there unless everything aligns perfectly. So we'll go back and kind of truth test the model each year for both usage and then go against actual costs and then balance that out. So as I mentioned, there's a new IGA, which we submitted, which we look forward to reviewing. This process, was a little clunky at times, but I think we've gotten to a point where it's fair and equitable for all the users. And I see my countdown going 7, 6, 5, 4. So I'll shut up and answer any questions. And then after any questions on dispatch, while I'm here, if you have any other county questions, feel free to fire away.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Good time management there.
Thanks.
What questions do we have, Council?
I have questions, and I apologize because I'm coming up to speed here and trying to understand, all the different pieces, and I know there's money kind of moving around here and there. The first question I have, it goes back to, I went back and looked at the May 5th meeting, and then you communicated there, and there was a 2 mil that was being funded, that the dispatcher was being funded from before. So there's 2 mil property tax, is that correct? Or
So
there was a 2 something?
yeah, well, I think what you're getting at is what we showed you in May was how many mills of our property tax go to support the dispatch center. So that's not dedicated funding for the dispatch center. It wasn't an election saying this mill levy is specific for the dispatch center. It just equates to what we use from our property tax on a mill levy basis. So it's close to, you're probably right. I don't have it in front of me, but it's probably close to 2 mills.
Okay. And then there was other things I'm trying to understand, put together there, and that had to do with if you took the $40 that you had, that there was something about a $500,000 piece of property equates to the 911 fee of $40. Do you remember that aspect?
I-
So if you had, so if you
It
took,
was just trying to give an example of
right.
what 2 mills for the county equates to.
So what we're doing here basically that the county is no longer is going to fund directly, in 3 years from now, it's no longer going to be funding directly the dispatch, and that would be by use across all the municipalities.
So
That's ultimately what you're trying to get to?
what we're getting to is at the end of this transition period, the county will still cover 50% of all the costs of the dispatch center based on our using mill levy funds. And then the balance of that would be allocated to the users based on how much they use the facility.
Okay.
And we measure by CAD entry. So when you could have an incident which would have a whole bunch of calls, but if you bring in backup or multiple jurisdictions, but it's where that CAD entry started from is how we measure that.
Okay, that makes sense. And then a side question on that, because you were talking about where your staffing comes from is basically West Steamboat and beyond. I assume that because of all the electronics you're involved with, you couldn't move it to Hayden or something like that.
So what I mentioned before is we wouldn't move the main center there. There's some demands and technology needs to have it at the Clef and where some of the servers are. But we are looking at that 2-console remote center or satellite center at the Hayden Police Department, probably for the next 5 to 8 years, 10 years. And then, depending on what happens, the county has purchased a 5-acre parcel in the Hayden Business Park across from the airport. 2/3 of that was purchased with airport funds, 1/3 with general funds. And, at some point, I think we'll see some county building with some satellite services there so that folks don't have to come into Steamboat, DHS, clerk, motor vehicle, election center, that type of thing, and dispatch, maybe satellite for the sheriff's office over time. But that's probably a decade off down the line.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, great.
Okay. Other questions for Jay?
You go ahead.
Real quick question. As we see the graduated cost, the Steamboat responsibility, you had it at 421, and then because of that PUC dollar going to $4, it brought it down to 56,000 and change. Great, planned it. I know we budgeted for that 420, so that's a benefit. What I haven't seen, without getting a budget of what the dispatch actually uses and cost for the overall cost of the whole thing, I trust your numbers, but I'm just curious on how the mathematics works from the 420, which was brought down to 506, but now we're back up to 500 and then 900,000. Is this just a graduated scale to make the impact less for us? How is that happening over the next 2 years, and how is that changing, and what's going to happen after that 9? Are we going to see a $400,000 increase ongoing, or?
So the idea is that when we came in with a phasing plan was that in 2026, that the cost share would include, the phasing in would be 70% of personnel and operations and no overhead.
Yep.
And then we go to 100% of operations of it and then overhead. And then we'd move to including the full cost of operating the center into the model. So that's where the phasing's coming in. We will be reviewing that with your staff in detail, and Kim does have all the kind of the spreadsheets on the cost and how we've calculated that. She's also met with Dan Sternad, our finance director, on that. So we'll be completely transparent. I think we have been on what our true costs are for operating the center.
And that's really the number that I haven't seen in all these discussions, is what does it actually cost, and broke down, unless it's on here that I didn't see. The full cost of our dispatch for a year, just like you would get a budget from any of our departments.
So what we've paid to operate it outside of 911 fees and the other surcharges and just direct property tax has gone from 2.1 million. It's hovered between 2.1 and 1.7 million on our direct costs outside of those other fees coming in. But we have given your staff a full budget on that.
So when you say those other fees that are coming in, are those other fees going to keep coming in?
Yes.
Right? So those don't change.
Well, they could increase. So if you think of population growth and just take a new hotel, each one of those rooms usually has a separate line to it.
Yep.
And each one of those would be $4 a month. So there is the opportunity that line fee will increase over time.
Okay.
And then we can also continue to look at how we maximize fee recovery on our tower spaces and stuff if we lease out more space to cell phone users, that type of thing.
No, that's good. I just fiscally responsible want to make sure that as we are partnering with you on this dispatch, to really have that full transparency of just like our other departments of what's the overall cost. And then, we'll see what departments and what other municipalities are actually putting money up for this. I'm sure you've gone to Hayden, Oak Creek, and others for this.
We've met with all the municipalities. We have not given this revised IGA and budget yet to the other municipalities because we wanted to work through as the major cost partner being the city of Steamboat Springs and the major user.
Exactly.
And one of the things we built into the model was that the county would cover the first $30,000 of each entity's costs. Because if you think of a Yampa Fire District, a $5,000, $6,000 charge for dispatch would be a significant hit for them. Total volunteer, $20,000 costs for North Route would be a huge hit proportionally. So we've tried to make sure that those which are really modest users don't get necessarily pushed over the edge financially.
Good call. Thank you.
Councilor Gary, you have?
Thank you. Actually, Councilor Bacino asked my question, so thank you.
Okay.
We're on the same page.
Some of my questions have been asked and answered. Just one question about the 50% commitment from the county moving forward with the property tax. Is that in perpetuity?
We hope so. We're going to it's written into the IGA. I mean, there's some caveat in there that if there's some seismic shift in financing that we would have to revisit that with the partners at the table. The county is a little unique in terms of a lot of counties in Colorado. We are Tabor limited in our property tax. So our property tax can only go up by growth and inflation. And so we don't see that big rise in valuations it wasn't a windfall for the county like it was for some entities which weren't Tabor limited. And our sales tax and grant money was debruced, so we can bring in additional revenue on that side, which is why, some of the other costs going. And we've been able to balance, like you've seen, big increased costs. I mean, 40% in the last 5 years on heavy equipment, asphalt, same stuff you're seeing. We just run a bigger, operation in terms of heavy equipment and asphalt with our road network. That 40% cost, we've been able to absorb that because of the rising sales tax. And of course, we're kind of in that leveling mode now. We're grateful it's not dropping and that it's leveling or slight increasing. But it's not, the county itself, we're going to have to be really sensitive about how we handle things.
Great. All right. That's my last question for Jay. I do have questions for Kim, but we'll let others if they have questions for Jay.
Great.
Any other questions for Jay?
Do you have a breakout on the percentage of property taxes that comes from the city versus the other entities on that number?
Yeah, we can. That's pretty easy. I mean, roughly can film, but it's close to 60% of the property tax the county collects is within the city limits. And that probably tracks on the usage of a lot of the services that we provide. It's pretty, other than law enforcement out covering remote areas of the county, if you look at DHS, clerk and recording, and a lot of the services we provide, that ratio is pretty close to 60-40. Yeah.
Anyone else?
One more quick question. In 2028, I see the numbers from Kim that the revised estimate for the city's application is 918,000. Is that 918,000, 50% of what the cost is, or is that at that point, the full 100%? I'm just trying to understand the
That-
costs. Yeah.
That is
And that's
based on
2028.
your estimated use after we cover 50% of the overall cost of the center.
Okay. So
It's gonna run close to,
so ongoing basis, you're going to be covering 50%.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And the allocation model we've used, Kim and Dan can go over in way more detail, but it's modeled after how we allocate costs for overhead for the building office. So we try to follow the same kind of setup that we've used with other agreements with the city.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
Great, thank you.
And Counselor Dixon, you had some questions for Kim?
Love for Kim to come up as our expert finance director. And I don't know if I have any specific, just your because at the last council meeting, I don't remember if it was actually our budget retreat, but we really talked about having city staff work with county staff around this. So I would just love to, Kim, to kind of hear your opinion and your thoughts on this.
Great, thanks. Kim Weber, Finance Director. A couple of things that you guys have asked. Based on the cost model that I've received, the total cost with allocated overhead and depreciation of the department is running right around $3.8 million in 2028. Net is about a $2 million loss. So that's where you see the about $1 million for the county and about $918,000 for the city. So those are like, we can get into more detail, but big picture, I think some of you are asking those questions. Those are questions. And then Councilor Barnes asked about the allocation of property tax that is collected by the county. And I completely understand the county's struggle with the federal and state funding models. But that was kind of where staff had gone, that if you look at what the county collects, where they collect their property tax from, it mirrors pretty well where the call volumes are coming from. So it was staff's opinion that really property tax makes complete sense in paying for this model. I understand their funding funding issues, but that is, the call volume, the property tax really mirror one another. You will recall that we did budget for $420,000 just because that was our estimate. So it is set aside in the general fund budget. With this being less, we can discuss what happens with that money. That'll go back into reserves. We just set it aside just in case. So happy to answer any other questions. It's a tough one. It's a budget hit for either the county or the city, so.
Thanks, Kim.
Any other questions for Kim or for Jay? Jay?
Just had one other thing I wanted to add, because when you talk about how long-term, if there's some dedicated funding source for this, property tax for some makes sense. Some of our rural districts want a sales tax to it. We tried to set up the IGA in a manner that it doesn't necessarily call it out, but at some point, if this service wants to move to a standalone authority, we could kind of model and move it that way with its own funding. It's just that there's a lot of folks lined up right now for their own funding sources. So I'm not sure if this one's the highest one on the list. So thank you.
Thank you, Jay. We appreciate it. Okay. If there's no more questions, we will move on. Public comment on this. Anybody in the audience want to make a public comment? And if anybody online would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Come on down. No, this would be for what we just discussed. Okay, we'll get to you shortly. Anybody online?
No one online.
Okay, we will close public comment. Bring it back here. And is there any direction that we want or need to provide at this point?
What's our next steps? I didn't see that. Are we is this coming back to an actual council meeting where we're going to vote or have some type of resolution or what? Ordinance? I don't know.
Kim?
I don't think.
Right.
That's a good question. I don't know that we have a whole lot of choice, other than to work on the, work on the IGA, with the county to try to, come to an agreement on terms on what that looks like. And I think that's our next step unless city council has a strong feeling otherwise.
And the IGA would come back to council for approval, correct?
Dan, would that IGA need to come to council for approval? Did the, if the funding is already in the budget, would anything need to be approved by council?
No, then the city manager would have authority to execute the IGA.
Okay. That doesn't mean we can't bring it back to city council though. So
Would it come back up next year at the budget meeting?
it would come back up next year at the budget meeting, absolutely. But in the IGA, it would probably be built in and then it would be subject to annual appropriation. And it would come back up at the budget meeting, the higher amount.
But the bottom line is it's been reduced to $56,000 for next year,
For year one.
for year
And,
one.
I think Jay had mentioned that that includes some other stuff that we currently pay. So it's even lower than that.
Okay.
I would just say that this is fantastic. I think this is part of the step of working as a partnership with the county. They were obviously hit with some funding deficits that the federal government went through, and this is how we partner up. Thank you for getting us more information, Jay, because when we got first, this was kind of, what are you talking about? And for us on council, we were kind of hit at that one joint meeting. So this definitely clarified it. Yes, I've heard from my son how hard it is for dispatch and how their employment's bad. But this is really the example of when we work together with the county and help them out. It's not just like, some people have said to me, like, well, they get our property tax, they need to pay for it all. And I'm like, and then some. There's always the and then some. And so you hear one side of the conversation. It's nice that we can come together and you have no problem asking us for the money and we can work together and make it happen. So we had the discussion at the budget hearing and I think we settled on this. And so I'm glad it came back. The fun thing about it is we just found a little under $300,000 in our budget.
I'm sure it was a great negotiating tactic.
This year, then we got to find 500 and 900 to.
Yeah.
That's next year.
We'll cross that bridge, right? Thank you, Kim. Again, thank you, Jay. We appreciate it.
May I make one comment for our council? No questions. What struck me once again is that the fee structure is based on phones, landlines or cell phones. Cell phones, essentially, if you have your billing address in the city limits or a route county. So once again, we have a service we're providing that second homeowners are not paying into unless they have a landline, which those are going away, or a cell phone where they have a billing address in Steamboat. So I just say that for us as we think about a diversifying revenue for the city to, here's another example. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, good point.
Good point.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yes,
President, may I amend my previous answer?
yes, you may.
It looks like we changed the code 3 years ago to require that cost sharing agreements with other government agencies do get approved by council. So the IGA would come back to you.
Okay, well, all right. Good. Thank you, Dan. All right, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar may be reviewed and commented upon in the same manner as other agenda items. Any member of council or the public may request to pull any item from the consent calendar for further discussion at any time prior to approval, and items not removed may be approved with a single motion. So I'm just going to quickly read over just the two that are on the consent calendar tonight, and then we will ask the question of, does council want to pull either one of those? And then we'll also ask those in the audience and online if they would. So item number 5 is an ordinance levying a property tax at the rate of 2 mills. Number 6 is the first reading of an ordinance extending the waiver of temporary storage requirements of the Community Development Code in connection with the relocation of a historic structure known as the Marshall House. So council, does anyone want to pull either one of these two items? Okay, hearing none. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to pull either one of these two items? Which item would you like to pull? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody online? Raise your hand if you'd like to pull either one of those. Okay, so we have item number 6 will be pulled. Item number 5 can remain on the consent agenda, and I would ask for a motion to approve item 5.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Councilor Pacino, second by Councilor Gary. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, we're going to number 6, the ordinance extending the waiver of temporary storage requirements of the Community Development Code in connection with the relocation of a historic structure known as Marshall House. And I think we just need to have the person who pulled that to come down at this point, or do we,
Probably a quick
or is it,
presentation probably from
you
Kate.
want a presentation first? Okay, let's do that. Caitlin?
Good evening, counselors. Caitlin Barrett Smith, Historic Preservation Planner. As you, I'm sure, have all seen, driving down Oak past 12th and then past 11th, we continue to have the Marshall House, which is an eligible resource for potential historic designation to our Steamboat Springs Register of Historic Places, temporarily placed on cribbing, awaiting final and permanent relocation once the current owners can build a foundation and stem wall system. The first ordinance 2973, was passed on August 6th, 2024. And it was passed to waive provisions of the Community Development Code to allow for the temporary storage and use of the land to temporarily store the Marshall House. Section 300 of our Community Development Code does not provide provisions that cover the temporary storage of a structure. It may cover temporary storage and use for, let's say, a construction trailer and other similar activities, but not a structure. Here in Steamboat Springs, we have many eligible resources. We are also growing. And at the time in which the original parcels were sold at 134 12th Street, the developers opted to pay to relocate the house to an available parcel located just behind Smell That Bread around the corner of 11th and Oak Street. The original ordinance specified that they would have to submit a substantially complete development plan around, I believe, September of 2025, with hopes that that could be reviewed swiftly and they could apply for a building permit and then set the Marshall House permanently before construction season was over due to snowfall. The applicants and owners submitted a development plan on September 4th, 2025. That is still currently being reviewed by our development review team. The next round of reviews and the second submittal for that are due by staff to the applicant and owner on December 9th. The new proposed ordinance in front of you today would extend the waiver of the provisions of our Community Development Code to continue to allow for the temporary storage of the Marshall House until December 31st, 2026. You will also see in the City Council communication form and then also in the provided resolution that there is a second date that they would have to meet, which is to actually obtain approval of the development plan and also submit and obtain approval of the building permits by June 30th. Staff feels that that is gracious and fair in terms of a deadline, and that provides them enough time to actually build that foundation by the end of next summer, hopefully. That deadline of June 30th would also provide enough time if they haven't received building permits for them to plan to relocate the structure somewhere else or demolish the structure. Demolition of an eligible resource in the city of Steamboat Springs is not in line with our community plan or our historic preservation plan or the goals and the values of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Anyone have questions for Caitlin?
So one question. What is the holdup in the development plan, and do you have plans to overcome those roadblocks, moving forward?
Yes, so their development plan was actually substantially complete. There were just some minor comments from engineering, as well as the planning department, some regarding parking, and then also their trash enclosure. And so it's just going through the regular process with kind of predetermined timeframes that our permitting portal places on development plans. So we don't see too many issues in being able to continue to review that.
Okay.
I have a question, Caitlin. And the applicant or developers, they're in agreement with this timeline, the June and.
Yes, we have spoken about that, and it's pretty much extending a similar timeframe that City Council was in support of last year.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Caitlin? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we will open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a public comment? Come on down, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Paula Silverman. My address is 1502 Fish Creek Falls Road. My husband Rick and I are owners of the duplex on 1143, 1145 Oak Street, which is next to where the Marshall House is currently placed. I want to first and foremost say that when there was the vote about preserving historical stuff, we did vote yes. I am not a person that says, but not in my backyard. I'm fine with it being in my backyard as long as respect and responsibility is being shown in the process. And in terms of the ordinance, I understand that this will be the request is to extend it for another year. The house has already sat there for a year and 5 months. And I would just like to say that question was just answered. But in order for it to be stored, there had to be an excavation that was done. And as owners next to it, there was no notification of that. And I'm wondering, should there have been? And then when the house was actually moved, there was also no notification that it would be moved and it would compromise the parking for our tenants at our duplex. So I was wondering about that. And even the storage of the building is in violation under my understandings of many of the setbacks. So I'm wondering, how is this even going to be a possible project? Because there has to be approval for variances. And my understanding is to get variances, you would have to also talk to neighbors about it. So I'm here with the idea of be a good neighbor, do no harm. And I'm not sure that that process is being followed whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to come down and make a public comment? Is there anybody online? Raise your hand if you'd like to make a public comment.
Yes, it looks like we do have one public comment. Bill, would you like to unmute and state your name?
Bill Latoza. I live at 2170 Valdezare Circle. I'm also board president of Historic Routt County. And I just want to speak in favor of continuing the timeline on this most important project. We've been losing a lot of historic buildings, and unfortunately, rehabilitation and restoration take time. I know that the owners have been working hand in hand with planning and Caitlin, and I know they're doing a great job, and saving this building is most important to the community in Steamboat. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bill.
What was that?
It's an automatic, automated.
That was good timing though, wasn't it? Okay, is there anyone else online? Raise your hand in the audience. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back to council for deliberations, then
You
discussion.
know what? We did have a,
What
actually, I don't know.
do?
Counselor, or
We do.
Luella did raise her hand as she was
Okay.
closing. comment.
Okay. Let's, if we can let Joella in. Joella?
Well, I'm here. Am I in?
Okay. We don't see
Am
you,
I
but
audible?
we hear you.
That's fine. This is a very peculiar position to be in at a city council meeting, but I kind of like it. This is a project, as you all know, I've been involved in since the beginning. It's extremely important for me for historic preservation for this community. It's costly. It's taking what feels like a lifetime to get this done. I appreciate everyone, including the neighbors up on Soda Ridge, who are not pleased with looking at what's now the famous floating house. We are trying very hard to get the necessary permits to put this on a foundation and get it going as soon as possible. I've been dealing with standard procedure within the Planning Commission to get the necessary approvals for this house. Some of them are straightforward, some of them are difficult. Part of that is because it's a historic structure. Part of that is because we have the same parking issues that everybody else in the city has. I think we are close to a resolution, and I would ask the council to give us the time that has been requested, understanding that we need to get this going as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Joella. Okay. Anyone else online? Seeing none, anyone else in the audience want to make a public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment and bring it back to council for discussion.
We have staff address the questions about being notified, what the rules are.
Caitlin?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they brought up 3 points, right? In terms of the setback, the excavation, and the parking question. So it'd be great to hear responses.
Yes, Caitlin Barabee Smith. So they brought up public notice regarding excavation, moving, and then also variances. Is that correct, council members?
Yes.
Yes.
Particular setbacks, variances.
Perfect. So when you approved the first ordinance and issued the resolution that allowed for the temporary placement, so we're waiving the provisions of our community development code for the temporary placement, acknowledging that they might not meet current setbacks as of right now. In regards to excavation, that required a fill and grade permit. That does not require public notice. In regards to, it's under the same section of our code, I believe it's section 111C. It is the alteration and relocation of eligible resources. For an eligible resource, we do not require public notice for building permit or for a planning application. We did do our best to try to reach all of the neighbors. Of course, it is pretty difficult when the owners of the home may not live in the home, but we were in direct contact with their tenants at the time of moving. And the moving of the structure did impact their parking temporarily during the actual moving of the house. In terms of public notice for variances, we are following the standard development review process for a development plan, and we did adhere to the proper public notice, including both a mailing, a yellow development sign, and then posting in the pilot.
And maybe just to follow up to your comment, right, in terms of the notice, is that mailed to the property owner?
Yes, there is a mailing that's mailed to the property owner. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up question. In terms of the variances, are you anticipating that you're requesting variances for setbacks and for parking?
Yes, there are quite a few variances that are part of the development plan that is publicly available. And that is why they are going through the development plan application and review process, because there are variances tied to that. The final decision maker is City Council, so that is you all. So you will have the final decision on that following recommendation by both Historic Preservation Commission and Planning Commission.
When do you anticipate those coming out?
We'll see how the next review goes. Our next round of comments, I think I said prior, are due on December 9th. So we're planning to meet internally prior to that. We may have one or two more questions. Hopefully that's about it. And then we can really begin to schedule those public hearings.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Okay. Thoughts?
I will just say, I feel for the neighbor. I'm sorry you feel disrespected. I hope tonight at least you got some answers. And that my hope is that this will be temporary and the issues you faced won't be permanent. But I do appreciate you coming out, and I'm sorry how it's panned out.
We did not get mail notification about any of the information.
Maybe could we have staff follow up after our meeting? Somebody reach out or give a card, please.
May I clarify for the record?
Yes.
Our mailed public notices are determined based upon a 300-foot radius around the property in question. And so if the owners of the property in question don't live within that 300-foot radius, there is a chance that they may not have received a notice regarding the owner and applicant's submission of an application for a development plan. So I just want to make sure that's clear. And we are happy to follow up with the neighbors and the owners. Oh, thanks, Bob. And we officially haven't done notice yet because we haven't scheduled the public hearing. So when we do that, we will submit notice and we will be sure to have Joella, the owner, work with the owners of the neighbors because they will not receive that public notice.
If we could just make sure that they get a contact at the city that they could reach out to, please, that would be wonderful.
Agreed.
Agreed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Would someone like to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Counselor Swidtek, a second by Counselor Dixon. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Okay, we are going to move on to our motions, resolutions, and ordinances. And we're starting with number 7, a second reading of an ordinance.
Hey, Kelly, is somebody going to give them a business card?
Yeah, they will.
Okay.
We'll make sure that happens.
Like
Just Dick.
before they leave?
Uh,
If they are leaving, how are we going to find them and make sure they get a contact? I would like them to just leave with something in their hand, please. Sorry to commandeer, just.
Oh, thank you, Bert. Yeah.
I think that's appropriate.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Okay, we're going to move on to the second reading of an ordinance. That's number 7, approving the purchase of Lot 1, Block 4, Whistler Meadows, filing number 1, 9.2 acres of real property known as Whistler Park, SSSD parcel, and providing an effective date and setting a hearing date. Angela?
Good evening, City Council. Just sharing my screen real quick. Awesome. Here tonight for the second reading of the Whistler Parkland acquisition. I have a presentation if you would like to see it. It's extremely similar to the one that you saw last week. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Does anybody want a presentation? Does anybody have any questions for Angela?
I have a question, Angela. I'm actually testing your QR code right this moment, so I will let you know how it goes. Will we be talking about the different grant opportunities at our Parkland Acquisition Committee meetings that we have separate from council? Is that what we will discuss?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Is there anybody in the public who would like to make a public comment, either in the audience or if you're online, you can raise your hand? Come on down.
Hi,
Oh.
my name is Dory and I live on Whistler. And I just want to thank everybody. This is a really exciting, glorious moment that all of you have come together to help all of us who wanted this so badly, and to see this kind of unity in a time of terrible disunity is a wonderful thing. And I just wanted to thank everybody involved.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right?
Anyone else in the audience want to come down?
Barbara Triolo, 3393 Stone Lane. And I would like to just thank you for your decision to purchase Whistler Park and preserve it in its current form. This action reflects a meaningful commitment to protecting open space, supporting community recreation, and maintaining the character of our neighborhoods. Whistler Park is a cherished place for residents of all ages, and your choice to keep it as it is ensures that future generations will continue to enjoy it. We appreciate your leadership, vision, and dedication to our community's quality of life. Thank you again for making this investment in a place so many of us value. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barb.
Anyone else want to come down and make a public comment? Come on down.
Good evening, Glenn Davis, Parks and Rec Commissioner, but tonight I'm here as a private citizen of the Whistler community. I'd like to also extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude for voting on this and passing this and committing it. And I think preserving and protecting has been a common theme this evening, and really preserving the Whistler Park in its current state. Also, as we grow sensibly, you guys have done a lot of work, and Parks and Rec Department has done a lot of work as growing the Core Trail West. I think this will really complete the Core Trail, which has started many, many years ago, and really kind of bookend the Core Trail from one end to the other. You're going to have a really great park on one end, and then on the other end, on the west end, as we go through to Whistler or to Steamboat 2, Heritage Park, and into Slate Creek. We're going to have some amazing facilities in Slate Creek, and it'll really kind of make an awesome corridor, the Core Trail from one end to the other. And just thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Hello.
So Jessica Berg, Park Court, and I just want to also thank everybody. We started working on this 9 years ago, and I fought really hard for this land because for so many reasons. And it's very important, not only to us, but to the animals, to our environment. And I just thank you all for coming together. And I think this is a great example of working together. And I also wanted to reiterate our commitment to fundraising and helping. And we have a strong community that I hope can be of service in other ways with other issues as we go forward as a community. So thanks so much. And
All right,
Thank you.
Hey, Jesse.
Hello, Debbie
Hello.
Spiker, 1225 Meadowood Court. I'd like to thank you all as well. And Jessica just said some of the things I said. Many of you have seen the community outpouring when you had meetings about this and all the different issues that have come up over the last many years. We're very happy to see it as a park for future generations. This would be a badge in your feather in your cap as far as getting it final, through the final process. And as Jessica said, I think you've seen as a community, we will work hard to help find the funding to get this done and keep it 100% park, not developed. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to come down and make a public comment? Okay, seeing none and looking online, anyone raise your hand? Don't see anyone online, so we'll close public comment. Bring it back to council for a motion.
Is now a good time to tell them that we're gonna have a year-long rainbow gathering at Whistler Park to help pay for it?
Oh my God. No. Yeah, no campaign. Oh my. Oh, yeah. Well, I would just like to say, one, that QR code is working. I just confirmed, so folks can go ahead and donate. I want to thank the community. This is truly what community looks like, coming together, engaging in the process. This would not have happened without the community. So thank you to everyone who showed up and really spoke up and spoke out. And I also want to thank our staff, Angela and your team. Yeah. Huge kudos. You are such a go-getter and always looking for ways to have parkland acquisition and finding grants and different funding sources. So I so appreciate you and your team for all your work on this and all the other amazing projects. So I wanted just to thank you as well and your team. Yeah.
So well said, Councilor Dixon. And I like to echo what Glenn said and for Parks and Rec. I mean, that really paints a picture of we can have a complete core trail from the south end of Steamboat all the way up to the far west side of Steamboat, and that's encouraging. We can complete that connection. So that's a big advantage for the city and community moving forward. Thank you.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I would love to make a motion to approve agenda item, hold on. 7, thank you, for the acquisition of Whistler Park.
Okay.
I like to second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilor Dixon, second by Councilor Gosto, and all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Congratulations. Happy Thanksgiving.
Historic.
Yes, big.
Okay. All right, we will keep moving here. We're up to number 8, a second reading of an ordinance approving the purchase of 2 parcels known as the Campbell property, composed of 0.61 acre tract and SE4, NE4, and W4 Les Row, record number 817799, SEC 7-6-84, 1.55 acre tract of land in the E2 Northwest 4, SEC 7-6-84, providing an effective date and setting a hearing date. Okay, Kelly, does anybody want a presentation on this one? Does anybody have any questions?
Has anything changed since last week?
Great question, Councilor Pacino. Just one minor change, a slight amendment to the contract clarifying the address description. Also, clarifying that the antique gas pump in the furniture store won't be included as part of the sale. And then clarifying that Steve Muntean, as now council president, will be signing the contract. I defer to City Attorney Foote. If there's anything else that we need to highlight for council tonight.
No, those are the only changes that I'm aware of.
So we just need council to acknowledge in the motion the changes, these minor amendments to the contract.
All right, including the amendment in to Exhibit A. Yes. Any other questions? Okay, we'll open up the public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make public comment? Come on down. Anybody online, raise your hand if you'd like to make public comment. Hearing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back to council. Councilor Swintek,
Can I make a motion?
you can.
Move to approve and acknowledge the language changes as seen in Exhibit A.
Second.
Second. So Councilor Swintek, motion, Councilor Barnes, a second. All in favor of approving this motion with including the amendment to Exhibit A, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay. Number 9, second reading of an ordinance approving a supplemental budget appropriation for 2025, utilizing short-term rental tax funds for earnest money to acquire property referred to as the Campbell property for the purpose of providing affordable and attainable housing. Does anybody want a presentation on this item? Does anybody have any questions for Kim on this item?
Maybe, I would just say maybe a quick highlight in terms of the dollar amount.
Yeah, so Kim Weber, Finance Director. This is $250,000 for earnest money to be paid next Monday in accordance with the purchase agreement that you just approved coming from the short-term rental tax fund.
Okay. Other questions for Kim? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Kim. We'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make public comment? Come on down if you wish to. Okay, seeing no one. Is there anybody online? Raise your hand. Okay, seeing no one. We'll close public comment, bring it back to council. Does someone want to make a motion at this point?
Move to approve agenda item 9.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilor Pacino, a second from Councilor Gary. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 9, ordinance passes 7-0. Okay, number 10, a second reading of an ordinance approving a supplemental budget appropriation for 2026, utilizing short-term rental tax funds to acquire property referred to as the Campbell property for the purpose of providing affordable and attainable housing. Okay, Kim?
So this supplemental is a supplemental budget appropriation for 2026, and this is the balance of $4,025,000 to have available at closing on the Campbell property out of the short-term rental tax fund
To be allocated in 2026.
to be allocated in 2026. Yep.
Any questions for Kim?
Yeah, quick question. Just after this commitment, what's our remainder of SCR funds?
Let me.
Less any commitments we've made?
I had this last week.
If you can take it offline then.
Okay, can I email it to you?
Send us a note.
Okay.
Sort of, what that
I'll do that.
is. Okay. So basically less than any commitments.
Okay, less any commitments. Yep.
Okay. Other questions for Kim? All right, thank you, Kim. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to come down and make a public comment on item number 10? Is there anybody online who would like to make a public comment? Raise your hand.
Nobody online.
Okay, so we will close public comment, bring it back to council for a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second the motion to approve agenda item 10.
Okay, we have a motion by Counselor Swintek, second by Counselor Gary. All those in favor of approving item number 10 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay. City Attorney's report. Dan.
I don't have a report. I wish I did. It'd be the earliest one.
Okay, we'll go to old business minutes from the meeting on October 7th. Has everybody reviewed those minutes and do we have any changes to those minutes? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay, a motion by Counselor Swintek, second by Counselor Gary. All those in favor of approving the minutes from October 7th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, is there any other business we need to talk about here?
It's adjourned in the 6 o'clock hour.
Holy cow.
Okay, motion for Counselor Swintek to adjourn. Do we have a second? Second by Counselor Burrs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.